today is about relationships. And one of the main reasons for setting up the top 100 was to make sure that we as entrepreneurs can have a forum to form relationships. So around you are people you can do business with. Around you are people you can create solutions. Now, one person I spoke to earlier was Bwana George Washiru, and he said, people buy people. And that's exactly what relationships are. And one secret I'll tell you about from KPMG, the partnership lives by the mantra, people buy from people they like. And people buy more from people they like better. And that's the truth. Yeah? We buy personalities. We buy people who remember that my mother was unwell last week. So how is she doing now? We buy from that cashier who gives you a fantastic smile and says, you know what? Last week you looked down. I'm really glad you're smiling today. That cashier will have me locked down in that bank for a long time. So this evening, Mo Sound intends to dazzle us. So Karibu, here is the forum. Engage, network, and welcome and have a lovely evening. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's listen to how we can make more money through simple things like a greeting and remembering someone's name. Karibuni sana.
My name is Julian Macharia from Mosound Events. Mosound Events is a multi-platform solutions provider. In English, we provided the screens, the lighting, the sound, everything you're experiencing today. Yeah. Today's theme is about relationships being the future currency. So we want to explore how important are relationships in business today and possibly in the future. And what we are proposing is there's a high possibility it will even be bigger than goodwill, bigger than contacts, bigger than all your networks combined. And that's the kind of conversation that will be happening this evening. So without further ado, I'd like to call my lovely panelists who will help me feel less shy on stage. So I'm going to start with Salim Amin, the chairman of A24 Media. Salim, welcome. Closely followed by his counterpart, Daniel Pronard, the COO of A24 Media. Welcome. Then I'm going to invite Lawrence Kinyanjui, the CEO of Africa Advance. How I'd like us to run the evening is very simple. I'm just going to ask everyone to give us a short biography of who they are and the companies they're presenting, and a little bit about themselves, just for about 2 minutes. And then after that, they are going to tell us briefly what relationships mean to them in their line of work, the power and the value of relationships. But the question is, Kenyan businesses don't seem to take it that seriously. You've heard a lot of the Far East cultures, the Japanese, when they're signing a deal, they can spend up to 3 weeks getting to know you, taking you for dinners, you go play a game of golf, go eat lunch. They don't want to discuss the deal because they only work with people who they believe they can work with, because they believe so strongly that when things get tough, when things get rough in the business environment, your friendship will outlast the deal. Your friendship will outlast what it is you've been working on. But Kenyans, we tend to be a lot of touch and go, but I don't think we can survive that way. So I'll start at the extreme right. Salim Amin, welcome.
My name is Salim Amin. I'm chairman of Africa 24 Media. I've been in the media for as long as I can remember, since I was about 8 years old. I started shooting pictures and grew up in this industry. The thing that I learned the most from him, because in our business, which I think is fairly unique compared to pretty much every other business, in our business, relationships with people save your life. And actually, it's not about money, it's not about doing business with other people. You actually decide whether you survive or you die in a war zone or in a place of conflict, depending on the relationships that you build with the people on the ground there, with your fixers, with the different militia, with the, I've covered war zones, and I believe the business climate is almost like a war zone as well. So you have to build relationships. People, like Caroline said earlier, people do business with you because they like you. And they don't like you if they know that you're only being nice to them because you want to do business with them. Because people want to interact with you, they want to touch you, they want to feel you, they want you to buy them a drink more often than not. They want you to buy them dinner. They actually want to feel that you care. And I've always done business with people that I like. I've always felt that if people will see through you eventually, and that's something that will then, in the end, ruin your business. And there's a difference between doing small business and growing to what the top 100 entrepreneurs do, which is growing into 100 to 500 million shilling companies. That's the difference in doing smart business.
My relationship trail started with CNN in the mid-1980s because my father recommended me to somebody that he used to work with. And then a relationship that I had with somebody who had left CNN brought me to AP Television to start that agency doing TV in Washington, D.C. And another relationship helped me move to Hong Kong to run the Asian region for AP for a while. But certainly as a journalist, relationships got me stories, relationships got me jobs, relationships got me new friends, and relationships with people in power, which led to success in the various business ventures I had. So far, since I've been here, which is about 3.5 years, we've had some very interesting relationships with businessmen from around Africa. I've learned a lot from Salim and his relationships. He knows some of the richest guys in Africa and has been able to reach out to them to be on his talk show, The Scoop, to offer support in various initiatives he's had through the World Economic Forum and the Young Global Leaders. And I look forward to making more relationships here in Africa and seeing our business expand.
Hi guys, my name is Lawrence Kinyanjui. I'm the CEO of Africa Advance. Africa Advance is an investment company. We invest in people, ideas, businesses across Africa. Our goal is to be 2 billion investment company in the next 5 years. We also have CSR, and our CSR is the much neglected boy child, with whom now we actively engage in education. So we have an education program at Daystar University and Starehe Boys. As I reflected on this, one of the things that occurred to me is that throughout the years that I've worked, before I went out into business, when I was in employment, I never did a single interview. All my jobs came by way of people I knew. And this thing has seemed to go on. And now sitting at Africa Advance, talking to people who are trying to sell ideas or looking for venture capital or just looking for capital injection, I begin to realize that we are not so much buying, if you're selling tea or if you're building houses. The first connection is whether I get you. So do I get you? Do we resonate? Do we say we'll have a 1 hour lunch and then instead of ending at 2 we go until 3:45 and end up having tea as well? You're a person that's going to end up investing in. And for me, it's not the currency of the future, it's the currency of now.
A24 being a bit modest. A24, do you all know the show Africa Journal? These are the guys who created it and are running it. And Salim has a new show called The Scoop that has a viewership of over 300 million people worldwide weekly. Locally it's airing on KBC, but he's more famous outside Kenya. You know they are Dutch. You never know in your local country, yeah? But these guys are really big out there. Lawrence also hasn't said much, but something interesting about Africa Advance, they're a team of 13 guys who've come together, and something I found very interesting, beyond doing business, they consciously hang out together as families, see? So they've taken it beyond, because I believe the guys who have founded the company, sooner or later you need to pass on the baton. And notice a lot of Kenyan organizations, when the patriarch dies, that's it, companies chopped into pieces, and we talk about it in the past. Now, you've all said nice, warm things about relationships. Starting with Sally, why don't you tell me a bad relationship you've had? Not about a college girlfriend, but from your business space. And is there anything you could have done different about it? Do you have any regrets with relationships you felt that maybe you could have invested more time in it, or some that it was just a bad idea? You probably assume, like you said, that all I need to do is take him for a couple of lunches and you can do business. And maybe all this time you are the mark in the end.
You know, the one thing about relationships is it's very easy to have relationships and to get into the door to do business with them. But at the end of the day, you have to have product and you have to be able to deliver, because otherwise the relationship is pointless. And I learned this, you know, my father for 40 years, built relationships with people all over the continent and all over the globe. And I was fortunate that I was able to continue with some of those relationships, even though I didn't know all of these people. But through my travels, I met a lot of people that held him in very high regard and would give me a lot of access because of how they felt about him and the respect that they had for him. But I learned very quickly that unless I could deliver the work in the same quality that he could, the relationships were fine to say, yeah, look, we'll, you know, have you over for coffee, for dinner, you know, we'll invite you here, but, you know, we're going to give you a job in Zimbabwe, we're going to give you a job in, if you can't deliver the stories the way your father delivered, if you can't provide us with that quality of service, that relationship after a while doesn't mean very much. They'll still say hello and invite you for tea or coffee, but there'll always be an excuse as to why they didn't give you that contract to do the job. So while the relationship is very important, the quality of your product and your delivery has to be equally, if not more important, because they've got to see that they're not getting shafted. No matter how good a friend you make, they don't all want to know that you're screwing them on a price or on a quality or something. They want to, it's a mutual thing where they're saying, we're giving you business because we like you, but you, in return, you've got to provide us what you've promised and give it to us at the best possible rate, the best possible quality, and that relationship then grows exponentially.
Thank you so much for being with us. I want to release you because I know you need to run.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Salim Amin. Alright, Daniel, I have a different question for you. You've traveled around the world, you've worked in different societies and communities. It's easy to talk about building a relationship, but I want to know how far is too far before you become a stalker? Because you've all had the experience where someone is calling you, hey, can I come see you tomorrow? It's okay, I can come over lunchtime. Where are you now? 9, I'll drive over to you, don't worry. And you're sort of wondering, okay, is this thing about business? So you worked in, I'm assuming we do all the continents, and cultures are different. Some cultures, you can't just approach a lady and tell her, let's meet for drinks, it means something else. So in your opinion, how far is too far? What are the telltale signs? And also as a journalist, when you're trying to pry out a scoop, and how do you things we should look out for, maybe habits we should avoid,
Honestly, as a journalist, and also my experience in business, in the business of journalism, the business of television, there is no too far. Yeah? The persistence pays off. I had a guy that came to me looking for a job in 1997, right around the time that Hong Kong was being handed back to China. And he called me up, and usually I'll take time to meet anybody who's a job seeker because I know what it's like to be out there in their shoes. And at the time, I just couldn't. I just come back from Cambodia from a trip trying to find Pol Pot, and I had to get ready for this big event. So I told this guy, I said, listen, I might have a job in Pakistan. Call me in a couple of months, and we'll see what comes up. The guy called me every 3 weeks for the next 6 months. He learned everything there was to know about Pakistan. He corresponded with everybody that I knew that was a journalist there to find out what it was like to operate there, so that he would have connections, so that he could drop names and stories and ideas he had. After 6 months, I told him I still don't have a job in Pakistan, but there might be one in Indonesia. So he called me every 3 weeks, telling me who he had met in Indonesia, who he had talked to, et cetera, et cetera. After 9 months, I said, I've got a job for you in Pakistan. And the guy now runs one of the biggest production companies in Thailand. So, my experience is if you want something, you go for it, you go for it, you go for it. And there are ways not to annoy people, yeah? By being prepared, by knowing things about their business, by bringing some value added, even though you don't work with them, bring good ideas, bring some connections. Give somebody some value to your relationship so you can build your relationship. Again, what's funny about the Canadian guy that I talked about, introduced me to A24, that guy I probably knew for 10 years without giving him any work, without him giving me any work either. just kept up the relationship so that we knew each other, we knew other people in the business. After about 10 years, I put him in touch with Al Jazeera, and he was their first cameraman in Beijing. So, that persistence, it'll pay off. It's worth doing.
So, how many passports do you have? Lawrence, I'd like to ask you a question. Africa Advance, a lot of the business you do is sort of hard assets, land, agriculture, where you may not necessarily need to meet the person. Get the land surveyor, agree on a price, and I suppose the rest handles itself. Is there space for relationship building, especially in such kind of industries where it's very clear, I just want stock of water, and when you clear come from the stock, I mean, is there any value, have you seen any value in having relationships or building them in your line of work or in the line of investments you do?
Yeah. My perspective is that everything is a people business. The product comes second. Because unless you are Kenya Power, really, there's an option for everything else. And even Kenya Power, you could use candles or paraffin. We find that, for example, if we're buying a piece of land, like now we're negotiating, we had some interesting negotiations down at the coast with respect to some beach property. So the land is fantastic, but it's got a history of grabbing, to put it delicately. So the titles need some work. So these guys come to you and they tell you, our documents may not match up. Are you willing to assist us? Now, if you're hard-nosed, you would say, I've done the search, your documents don't make sense. Or you could approach it the other way and say, let me help you do the due diligence. You don't have access to the lands office. Let's find out what the problem is. Let's even, in some cases, advance a little money to help you clean up your title. What we eventually find is that when you come back and tell that guy that, for example, I won't be able to pay you within 90 days. Can we make this a 6-month deal? He's like, okay, no problem. And that's money in my pocket. So I do not think there's such a thing as an asset-only or hard cash-only transaction. If you approach your business that way, it will not last very long, because there's always somebody around the corner who's willing to do something better than you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Furnad, Lawrence Kenyachui. You're not leaving stage yet. Solidarity forever. I'd like to open the floor to our lovely audience, and it's not really a Q&A. I'd just like you to share your experiences. You've had the questions I was asking. Maybe you can tell us when you receive the microphone what it is that you do. Tell us what relationships have done in your line of work or in your industry. Tell me if you've had a bad relationship, and tell me what you think is going to matter in the future in terms of as a currency for business.
Hello, my name is Peter Achayo from Western Business Investment. 2.5 years ago, often happens in Kenya during